still feel like Texas has such a high floor. Arch Manning doesn't even have to do that much. Like, that's what it feels like to me, is that if you really read about Texas, it's not just Arch Manning. That is not the headliner. He is not, he doesn't have to play hero ball here. They've got a great defense, probably the best defense in the SEC. They've got all these great pieces around him. And now it's a program where it feels like the old days of like Alabama, where they don't rebuild, they retool. Even the pieces that, they lost from last year, it just feels like there's another 5-star waiting in the wings. So for me, it still feels like a very blue chip stock where the floor is still very high. And I still think that applies to Georgia and maybe Alabama as well, to where if you bet on them, like, you're not going to be far off. Like, maybe they missed their win total by like one game, but still, I think these teams certainly there's a comfort factor there. And I think Texas kind of belongs to those ranks now.
I totally agree, which, of course, I'm thrilled to see, because now it's taken a while. I mean, it takes a long time to sort of build a program in your image and sort of get out the culture rot. And culture rot has always been, at least for a long time, a big part of the Texas program, because you're like, I'm a Longhorn now. I'm going to Texas. And all of a sudden you quit working hard and you get kind of cocky about the fact that you're playing for the Horns. It's like, listen, this is the SEC now, all right? It's time to get back to work, because there are plenty of teams in this conference that can beat you week in and week out. But Sark is taking care of that, and I think you're spot on about Arch, which is, look, I don't know if he's going to win the Heisman Trophy. Those are ridiculous expectations for a guy who has started 2 games. The potential is absolutely there, and we've already seen some mock drafts where next year he would probably go number 1 overall. The ceiling is unbelievable for Arch, because he can throw the deep ball and he can run. He's just a different type of quarterback than Quinn Ewers. And what does that mean for Texas? It means we're going to see a more dynamic offense from Sark. They have some issues on the offensive line. It's a big question mark for this team. Outside of that, I absolutely see why they are the number 1 team in the country. I will also say, I feel like people are sleeping on Bama a little bit here. And it's a thankless job taking over for Nick Saban. They're taking over for the GOAT. And I know Alabama didn't have the season that it wanted compared to the standard in Tuscaloosa. What was the game? Was it against Tennessee, or was it Vandy, where they ran like a 4th down play and a couple of the receivers were pretending to shoot jump shots on the outside? Do you remember this last year? I mean, Nick Saban's head would have quite literally exploded had he seen that. So some things to clean up, but I think Kalen DeBoer is a hell of a head coach.
Didn't the Bears do that against the Commanders too? Like, I'm thinking of like boneheaded plays. I think the Bears did something very similar. But yeah, it just feels like you don't have that implicit trust in the program like you did with Nick Saban. But I will say, normally when a new coach comes in, it's kind of tough to get your guys in place and, really run your system. And, maybe there's some carryover. So usually we will see head coaches be a little bit more successful in their 2nd and 3rd years. But is that the case here? Because the coach that he took over after probably had a damn good system in place. Do you get what I'm saying? Is that normally I would say, hey, he should be better in his 3rd year. But also you're getting further away from like the Nick Saban established teams and that discipline that some of those guys still probably had. So I don't know. I think it's a question. But what I don't feel great about is some of the adjectives that they're using to describe Ty Simpson, who is their starting quarterback this year. Like, I keep saying that, like, oh, he's so loyal. He's such a good teammate. I'm like, uh-oh. When are we going to talk about his actual ability to throw the football? Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like that person where you're like, oh, she's a really sweet girl. You're like, that's it? Nothing else?
Great personality.
She's nice.
She's got a great personality. Oh, okay. Yeah. I will say this. Look, he is loyal. He's been in the program for 4 years now. And I don't know if he's going to be as dynamic as Jalen Milroe, but Jalen Milroe also had the propensity to turn over the football. I think from an offensive perspective, Kalen DeBoer also brought Ryan Grubb back into the program as offensive coordinator, and they had worked together previously, so I think that's going to help a lot. It doesn't matter if it's Bama or any other blue blood. Whenever you replace someone like Nick Saban, not only are the expectations through the roof, but you do have to get your guys in there. Like, Nick Saban's guys aren't necessarily Kalen DeBoer's guys. So now that we have another year where Kalen DeBoer can sort of work with these guys during the offseason, I just feel like maybe we're not giving Bama the credit it deserves at 4-1, more value than you get on Texas here. LSU, I think, is an interesting case as well. But I think outside of my Horns, even though most of the value is gone, if there's another team I like, I think it's the Crimson Tide.
Yeah, even though if you're looking at win totals, I feel safer betting the over on Texas win total at 9.5 than I do Alabama. Agree or disagree?
I agree with that, yes. And if Texas gets past Ohio State, and I think Texas is going to win that game, I'm going to bet Texas to win outright. We'll talk about that later on in the week. Then that will certainly help that case, because all it takes is that one big victory or one big loss to sort of keep you either below or get you over that number. Who else do you like?
I think the SEC is still pretty top heavy to me. As much as I want to believe in some of these other teams, like we saw great stories from like Vanderbilt and like Ole Miss last year. But like Ole Miss, I think is going to sorely miss Jackson Dart. I think people are starting to see how great of a quarterback he is. You know, when obviously it's the preseason, but Ole Miss also loses, I think, 14 of their starters from last year's Gator Bowl win. So it's a program that's going to be reloading. I want to believe in South Carolina as well. And here's the tricky part of betting on teams that you don't see in person. So I went into this year thinking, oh, I like South Carolina. I like Shane Beamer. I like Lenora Sellers. But then you hear from these beat writers that actually are on campus, and a lot of these guys don't like South Carolina. Jenks, how much is your opinion swayed when you hear somebody who actually goes to these schools and sees them in person and says, not so fast, my friend. I'm feeling a little nervous now.
Big time. Big time. I mean, and it's a tough thing, too, because, you know, I obviously follow the Texas program very closely, and when I listen to people close to the team, people who have really, you know, more access than 99% of the population, and you hear really good things, you're like, okay, this plays into what I was thinking here. But then you don't want to get too caught up in that, because then you put on your, you know, your blinders, right? You're not seeing things objectively. But you're right. If you have someone who covers this program or any program like South Carolina year in and year out, I mean, I feel the same way you do. I'm like, I like Beamer. Did you see how South Carolina finished the season last year? Lenora Sellers was unbelievable. But you're like, yes, all those things are true. However, I've been at practice every day. I've been talking to the players and coaches. I'm seeing things that maybe you're not seeing because you're sitting here in a studio in Washington, D.C., and then I hear that, and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. You have more insight than I do. Maybe I need to pump the brakes.
Yeah, I think there's a few teams that people kind of like that I'm still needing to be sold on. Like people like Oklahoma, people like Texas A&M. With Jenks, I know that you will never be betting your money on the over 7.5 wins for Texas A&M. But it feels like we've heard this story before too from Texas A&M.
Yes, that's true.